This gameplay video is brought to you by Brandon Drennan. A massive thank you, Brandon. Well, a lot of you have asked over the recent weeks and months if we're ever going to prey on Leovold again, and apparently we're going to attempt it today. Leovold, Emissary of Trest, and we are running Drana the Last Bloodchief. Not an incredible hand, but it's not a bad one either. Might Demonic Tutor him for some fast mana to try and get ahead of our opponent. They are on the play, so they start things off with a mana confluence in for Deathrite Shaman. So I don't think we're going to crack the fetch straight away. That's really good. Get into a land so we can hold off on cracking the fetch. And hopefully they don't get into one themselves. Then getting into a second blue source, and of course they've got some fast mana. Doesn't help them get into the Leovold at least, not until they have to pay command attacks anyway. Then a Green Sun Zenith where X is 2, I would imagine is Sakura Tribe Elder to help fix their colours, something like that. No, they went for Fauna Shaman with 2 cards in hand, so they must have a creature that they want to tutor for. Hitting us for 1. And alright, Toxic Deluge is another good draw for us. I'm going to go in for the fast mana, like I said before. We'll go in for Mana Crypt here. Then we can play the Mind Stone. So where is the Mana Crypt? Under M. So we'll get that out, go in for the Mind Stone. I want my opponent to get their commander down before we Toxic Deluge. That could really slow our opponent down, especially if they don't manage to get into another land here. Although they have to get into a land to play Leovold, don't they? Shocking in a Watery Grave, and then using their colours for Leovold, and swinging in at us for 3 points of damage. Yeah, I was just going to rely on Oubliette to get rid of the Leovold, but they could always tutor for Rex Sage with the Fauna Shaman. So I think we're best going for the Toxic Deluge here, force them to recast their commander, and then we can get rid of it again. Null Priest of Oblivion is another reanimation spell, but we're just in control mode at the moment. Toxic Deluge, X is 3. We'll see if they've got any free counters. They do not. 2 cards in hand. We'll go up to 3 next turn, obviously. So I feel alright going for the fetch now that the Deathrite Shaman is out of play. And that allows us to go for Phyrexian Arena, making very good use of the fast mana. More fast mana from our opponent with Ancient Tomb. They will pretty much have to tap out here. They might have another rock for the colourless mana, but if they want to get into their commander here, they will have to tap their colours, and they do. Might be that they've got a wheel in hand. Phyrexian Arena will ping us, but we won't draw a card with that thanks to the Leovold. Or actually we'll draw with Phyrexian Arena and then not draw during our draw step. So it's just another swamp for us. I actually don't hate that. Our colours are obviously much easier than our opponents. Let's cast the Oubliette straight away and test them on free counters again. Well, they'll draw a card here, but it's a bit too late for them. They are going to lose their Leovold to the Oubliette. It'll phase out. And then we've got Disciple of Bolas is sacrifice a creature, which we obviously can't do at the moment. There's not really anything there. There's nothing to reanimate with the Null Priest either, so maybe we just go Null Priest here. We can start gaining a little bit of life, and we can sacrifice it to the Disciple of Bolas later on as well, because we'll start gaining additional card advantage here now that the Leovold is gone. So get out the Null Priest and pass the turn. Our opponent consistently making lands. They go for a Flooded Grove this time. Oh, and that's a good one. We've got Recurring Nightmare. No creature to sacrifice because they're treating Leovold as though it doesn't exist. Phyrexian Arena will get us a card this time, as will the draw step. Alright, even more mana on the top. That's not good. We need to be much faster than this against Leovold. The more time we give them, the more time they've got to do something to us. Let's swing in for 2 lifelink. puts us at a more equal life total. And I think we go in for our commander here. Then we can always go for Disciple of Bolas next turn. We could sacrifice the small vampire to draw cards and then reanimate it with Drana next turn. Alright, Veil of Summer is just a cantrip spell. Arbor Elf from our opponent will give them something to sacrifice. And they do sacrifice it, going after the Fauna Shaman. So probably going after the Rex Sage. They will need a creature in hand in order to do that, which... yeah, there's every chance they could have a creature. If they've got a wheel, they might have to go for it with the without Leovold in play. But obviously we'll draw cards then. Recasting the Recurring Nightmare anyway. So it'll be hard to keep the Fauna Shaman out of play. I think we're okay to crack the Mind Stone here. I think every card is going to matter against the Leovold deck, so let's crack that and draw a card. We've got a land to make next turn, so we don't go down any mana. Yeah, and I'm glad to clear the Verdant Catacombs off the top, so we'll get 2 new cards here. And another land, very glad that I cracked the Mind Stone. Let's hope for something good during the draw step. Alright, that's okay. A Nighthawk Scavenger. So we'll just drop a Swamp. And I think I actually want to gain some life here, so let's go for the Small Vampire swinging in, along with Drana, obviously. We'll offer up the trade for the Fauna Shaman as well. Highly doubt they block with Fauna Shaman, but I'm happy to see that hit the bin. They do not block, so we go up to 17. Then we'll gain a bit more life with the Nicol Bolas. I think, like I said before, I think every card draw is going to matter here, so I think I'm actually going to sacrifice the Drana just for the sake of drawing more cards. And we'll put that into the command zone. Didn't get into any reanimation there. So yeah, we'll put it in the command zone. Then we get into Soul Ring, so we'll play that out straight away. I like Oblivion Stone as well. That might be means of getting rid of Leovold if they get rid of the Oubliette. Let's drop the Viscera Seer as well. Argument to be made actually for us going for the Nighthawk Scavenger. Maybe should have done the Nighthawk Scavenger instead of the Oblivion Stone. They just drop another land and they still have 1 card in hand, so might be that they can go for something with the Fauna Shaman here. But passing through the turn, so even if they can go for something with that, they're not going to be able to cast it, I don't think. Might just be they've got a land in hand, which is fine with me. We get Crucible of Worlds, we're going to be able to make lands for the rest of the game, I think. Whip of Erebos is not bad. Let's throw out the Whip of Erebos. Try and keep our life total up, seeing as how we're losing quite a lot of life to all of the stuff that's in play. Then we will swing in with everything here, I think. They won't be able to block the Null Priest because it has Menace. Alright, taking it all, surprisingly, so they might be expecting a combat trick. They really don't want to lose that Fauna Shaman because it's their only out at this point, seemingly. So let's throw out the Nighthawk Scavenger. And we'll hold up 4 mana for the Oblivion Stone. I'll probably put a fake counter on Oubliette just in case we get desperate at some point this game. I think we might have them next turn. 2 cards in hand and still not discarding with the Fauna Shaman. So I think we've hit pretty lucky for 2 turns in a row there. Put the fake counter on the Oubliette. And alright, Lightning Greaves, speaking of getting good draws, we get into Lightning Greaves. We've got Heartless Act there as well, so let's just point that at the Fauna Shaman straight away. Make sure we can get in for lethal this turn. Might have counter magic for this. They are tapping in response. So apparently they do have something. Okay, discarding the Narcomoba. So they did have something. It's curious as to why they didn't go for the Reclamation Sage then, which I assume they have in the deck. They'll get the Flyer into play here anyway for discarding it. Oh no, that's just from the library, isn't it, that comes into play. Anyway, what did they go for? Protean Hulk, so maybe they've got Flash in hand. I think Flash is still legal in 1v1, so this might be a Flash Hulk deck, which makes the victory even more sweet if we do manage to get our opponent here. We'll cast the Drana, cast the Lightning Greaves as well, and put haste on the evasive 4/4. And then we're just turning everything sideways here. Nothing for Drana to reanimate, so not much of a reanimation game. Had to play that in a much more control-y fashion. But yeah, managing to prey on Leovold. I think we rode the oubliette into victory there. Yeah, they didn't necessarily have any wheels in hand or anything. I think they would have gone for a wheel as part of some kind of desperation attempt at the end there. But yeah, we wouldn't have been able to draw additional cards with Phyrexian Arena and stuff like that if the Leovold had been in play. So yeah, the oubliette definitely saved us there. Drana the Last Bloodchief, this time up against Phylath World Sculptor. Slow, not that slow. We can go for Myriad Landscape on turn 2, so yeah, a little bit slower than I'd like, but we've got a means of refilling our hand with Necropotence, potentially Skullclamp as well. And speaking of going fast, Exploration takes our opponent into 2 of their colours. We will, we'll start things off with the Myriad Landscape. Probably go for Ancient Tomb and crack that next turn. Then they crack a Misty Rainforest, taking themselves into Tiger and getting a land off the top with Courser of Crufix. We're probably going to get outraced here. They are down to 2 cards at least. Demon's Disciple is very tempting, although we can't go for it here, can we? So we just have to stick with the plan of cracking Myriad Landscape. Might go for the Demon's Disciple next turn. Just have to keep our fingers crossed that they don't reveal lands off the top. So we'll have 5 mana next turn. We've gotten off to a decent start mana-wise. 4 mana by turn 2 isn't bad, but not really as good as our opponent, although they don't have a land on top now. Good to know. They've got Shared Animosity in hand, potentially. So I think we definitely go in for Demon's Disciple so that we can get rid of this, and it takes them an extra turn to get into lands, potentially multiple extra turns. Cabal Coffers, alright. Let's throw down the Swamp. And we'll go Demon's Disciple. We obviously sacrifice our own Disciple. And then we'll go in for the Null Priest. That's a decent Skullclamp target. And we can reanimate it with our commander if needs be. So we know that they're drawing into Shared Animosity next turn. We just need to hope that they don't get into any decent ramp next turn. Well, they had a Rampant Growth in hand, so that takes them 1 step closer. Alright, Living Death doesn't do anything for us. Let's grab another Swamp with the Prismatic Vista. And then I think it's a good idea to get out our Drana, because we don't have haste, so we want to start swinging in with it next turn, really. Let's throw down Skullclamp as well. If they want a point removal at that, then so be it. It's removal that's not going at the Necropotence, at least. Might be that they can get their commander down here. Well, they haven't thrown a land out straight away. This might just be the... Yep, that's the Shared Animosity, just setting themselves up. And yeah, they don't make a land, that's really good. So I think we can just drop Cabal Coffers here. And we make 4 mana with the Cabal Coffers. 5, 6 and 7, then we can Skullclamp. Let's go for the Rune-Scarred Demon. We can use the Living Death as a board wipe if needs be. So let's see here, maybe just Toxic Deluge to try and get rid of all of our opponent's stuff. Or reanimating a Grey Merchant should do us some good. Yeah, let's go for Grey Merchant. Then we can swing in with everything. Reanimate the creature. And is this one of the ones that... No, that doesn't make our opponent discard or anything, so there's no upside to that. We'll just get rid of that. Ready to reanimate next turn. And then we lose some Black Devotion, but I think it's okay to draw some cards here, because we can always just go Necropotence and get some more Black Devotion there. Alright, Mana Crypt is okay to throw out, I think. We'll put the Skull Clamp onto our Drana. I think that's more likely to die than the Runescarred Demon is. So managing to keep up on mana, in fact actually accelerate past them on mana, luckily. And our luck might continue here if they don't get into a land. Yeah, nature's law, so that takes them even longer to get into their commander. And they play a tap land. Then in for Wayward Swordtooth, so yeah. The Exploration, along with the Wayward Swordtooth, definitely could have done some damage to us with Courser of Kruphix, but I don't think they're getting lands off the top anyway, judging by the fact that they're not playing lands directly. Let's say Tails, and win the flip there. Alright, Meteor Golem is potentially going to be really good. We can go Nykthos. Cabal Coffers makes some mana. Let's go Necropotence, just so that we've got more devotion. Then we'll play the Nykthos, which will give us a total of 8 mana. I think we can grab ourselves, we want more devotion to black, don't we? So let's go for the Small Vampire. This will get us another couple of devotion thanks to the Animate Dead. Then we'll cast ourselves a Grey Merchant of Asphodel. And that takes them down to 11, so we've actually got exactly enough there. Yeah, our opponent sees it and decides to scoop. We swing in with Drana there. Reanimate the Demon's Disciple, forcing them to sacrifice the Wayward Swordtooth, although they couldn't block anyway because we've got flyers. So yeah, getting them down to exactly 0 there before they managed to cast their commander. We were just lucky there, but I think getting rid of the Courser of Kruphix definitely slowed them down. Although, like I said, they weren't getting lands off the top anyway, were they? We were getting some decent draws, I think, but I think we had enough with everything that we had in play there already. On to the next one. Drana the Last Bloodchief, this time up against Ephara, God of the Polis. That is a pretty bad hand, so we'll have to mulligan that one. Well, Oubliette might be okay, but yeah, I don't have much hope for this game, judging by the draws that we're making here. Let's just get rid of Patron of the Vein, because we're nowhere near that. And I want to make consistent lands, so that we can likely play whatever we top deck into. Terramorphic Expanse from our opponent. Alright, Massacre Worms seem to be drawing into our bigger stuff, unfortunately. Get down the Lightning Greaves. And then it's some ramp from our opponent in Arcane Signet. That's exactly what I'm looking for at the moment. We have no black devotion whatsoever, so Nykthos won't do us any good. It is a 5th land for our commander though. But that's a very, very slow commander. They go in for their Ephara. We'll need that to become a creature before we can go for Oubliette on that. Although I think... I'm not sure how it works with phases out. If it stops becoming a creature, does the Oubliette fall off? It's not an aura, so... yeah, I don't think it works like that. I don't think you take devotion into account once it's phased out. Anyway, let's throw out another swamp. Go for the Jet Medallion. Could have done with that last turn, really. We could have gone for Drana here. Oh well. Now, Talisman of Progress from our opponent. That means they can hold up a bunch of blue mana, but deciding not to, seemingly. Alright, Heuristic Study. Swiftfoot Boots. I think we just go in for our Drana and pay for the study. Nothing to reanimate. Don't seem to get into our Entombs and things like that in this deck for some reason. So we'll just start hitting our opponent with commander damage. Okay, the poor draws just continue with a Viscerous Seer. Might just play that and... yeah, I think we'll sacrifice it at the end of our opponent's turn so that we can get a scry going. Now, does our opponent have a flash creature? It's likely that they do, so I'm not going to go in with the Viscerous Seer. Yeah, we'll just leave haste on Drana. In fact, we could have just played the Swiftfoot Boots and equipped it here, couldn't we? Because we're not doing anything else. But I don't mind the idea of... oh, actually, that's another thing we could have done. We could have scryed with Viscerous Seer and then reanimated it. So, a few misplays on this turn. Yeah, they don't go for a flash creature. I didn't mind the idea of holding up Oubliette for the flash creature because we might have wanted to go for that. Let's Swift Foot Boots. And we'll just pay for the study because I'm not bothered about equipping the boots to something that we're going to sacrifice anyway. Alright, going for Mana Drain for 2 extra mana. Better than Mana Draining an Oubliette or a Massacre Worm. Then Tech Edge goes on to our Nykthos, takes us down a mana. Not too worried about the Devotion to Black at this point, because we're just not making the draws at the moment. Okay, Fact or Fiction from our opponent. This is where we get into the late game and the white-blue deck starts to run away with it. Yeah, and what is that? Court Hussar is... Look at the top 3 cards, put one of them into your hand, so that's just card advantage. Yeah, you can have Jace the Mind Sculptor and the Court Hussar, and then Snap Mage. They'll probably take Snap Mage and Mana Drain. No, they went for Jace the Mind Sculptor. We can swing in at Jace with that, with our commander, that is. Alright, just going for the card advantage, seemingly. And they did spend the white mana, so they don't have to sacrifice it. Then at the end of the turn, let's sacrifice Viscera Seer to its own ability, and we'll try and get into something decent. I mean, is a land decent at this point, now that we've gone down a mana? Yeah, I think I'd rather try and get into Entomb or something like that, so we'll put that on the bottom. Ephara will draw our opponent a card, thanks to the Hussar coming out. Alright, Mind Stone. Might as well just play the Mind Stone. We'll pay into the study. I don't think they've gotten a card off of us yet for that. Then we're going to reanimate the Viscera Seer. Can fly straight over that. Got them up to 12 points of commander damage at least. Another 3 combats and we'll be able to get them on commander. Maybe 2 combats if we get into Skull Clamp. We could buff our Drana enough for 2 combats. Okay, Glen Alendra Archmage, that might spell the end for us. We shall have to see. Might be able to get into a land next turn, into Massacre Worm. So let's sacrifice Viscera Seer again. Arcane Signet. Yeah, I'm just going to hedge my bets and try and get into a land. It's funny that we just scried one to the bottom. Ephara will draw again. And there we go, there's a land, so... yeah, why don't we just try and keep getting commander damage through to our opponent. Hard cast the Massacre Worm. Oh, and actually, we could have cast it already, couldn't we? Because, yeah, I was thinking we needed 6 mana there, but we only needed 5. Well, we can keep up the trend of not paying into, or paying into the Rhystic Study, not allowing our opponent to draw. Glen Alendra will come back with Persist. And they will lose 2 life. They might feel encouraged to block here. And we are going to have a sack outlet for the Massacre Worm. So we can sacrifice the Massacre Worm and reanimate it next turn. Yep, deciding to block with Glen Alendra, which suggests that they don't have any targeted flicker effects. Ah, they might have one here. Yep, going for Momentary Blink, just for the sake of saving it, that's fine. We can still bring back the Massacre Worm next turn. And Ephara will draw on their turn, thanks to the flicker on Glen Alendra. Venser Shaper Savant here. I'd be curious to see which thing they're going after. Alright, Ephara. Yeah, they're bouncing the Lightning Greaves, so it might be that they've got some kind of spot removal. Nothing we can do about that. And then a Reflector Mage, so yeah, that's really good. We would need to spend 6 mana on getting our commander out again, which means we can't go for Lightning Greaves as well. So I don't think we're reanimating Massacre Worm at this point. I think what we can do is go for Oubliette onto their... Do we go onto Ephara and then just start swinging in with the Massacre Worm? Yeah, I think we just have to allow the Drana anyway. They have tapped down their blue mana, so there's an argument to be made for us going after their Glen Alendra with the Oubliette. Anyway, drawing another card here. And it's another land for us. Don't seem to struggle on getting into lands in this deck. Let's... Why don't we see how they block first before we do anything else. They either take 6 here or they'll lose a creature to the Massacre Worm. If they block with multiple creatures, they'll lose multiple creatures and lose life that way as well. Blocking with 1, so they'll lose 2 life. Yeah, so a tutor for a board wipe or something like that would be good. So I'm thinking we go Oubliette onto the Glen Elendra. So let's play that. Pay for the Rhystic Study again. And it might be that they can flick a Venser and bounce the Oubliette, but I mean, there's not a whole lot we can do with regards to stuff like that. It kind of encourages them to do that at least. Let's drop the Lightning Greaves. And we'll pay for the Study again. Then it can be Greaves onto the Wormcoil Engine. And maybe just hope for a tutor at this point. Oh, Soul Herder, that's a bad one. Yeah, so that lets them flicker the Venser and then they can bounce the Oubliette or the Lightning Greaves. So, yeah, I'm not hopeful for being able to finish this game off with a victory. I think our opponents managed to stabilise at this point. Swinging in with Reflector Mage, which we can't block. Then casting themselves a Revelark, which is when it leaves the battlefield, they can return 2 creatures with power 2 or less. So that's this one. They can grab themselves the Snap Mage that they discarded before. Yeah, that's about it. Now Soul Herder will trigger, and they do go after the Venser. So Soul Herder gets a counter, and it's the Lightning Greaves they're going after, curiously. Alright, so we might still have a chance here. Because they've tapped out again. Alright, Erebos. Don't think Erebos helps us. I mean, it's card draw, but... yeah, we can give a creature -2, -1. So we could get rid of their Soul Herder, but Revelark can get it back easily enough. Yeah, I think we have to go after the Soul Herder here, so let's go for Erebos. We're going to have to give them cards to do it, unfortunately. First time that they've drawn off of the Rhystic Study from us. We'll pay 2. We're just treading water at this point. We have to sacrifice a creature, so let's get rid of the Viscera Seer. And we'll pay 2 life to draw a card. Gets us into Defile, which... Defile. Ugh, if we had the mana, I'd love to go for Revelark first. Yeah, we'll just draw more cards here. We'll have to get rid of the Massacre Worm, unfortunately. So let's do -2, -1 onto the Soul Herder, sacrifice the Massacre Worm, which will deanimate our god. Say yes to drawing a card. Oblivion Stone, alright. Oblivion Stone might help us, although... yeah, maybe not. That brings back the Glen Elendra, doesn't it? Yeah, I think our opponent might have us here. Coming in at us for 14 points of damage. Which takes us down to 2. Okay, well, Sol Ring we'll pay for with black mana just in case we want to crack the Mind Stone. And I'm just going to feed them cards with the Study because I've no idea what I'm doing this turn. In fact, I think the only thing we can do is go for Drana and Lightning Greaves, isn't it? So let's pay into that Study and hope that they don't have counter magic, which with 7 cards in hand, I'm sure they do. Momentary Blink brings back the Snapcaster Mage, which flashes back the mana drain, so yeah, I think they've got us here. Yeah, I don't think there's anything we can do here. Do we want to Defile on something? I don't think there's anything we can do. So we'll just Defile the Revelark. Give them another card with the Rhystic Study. And this way the Revelark doesn't come back at least, but they still get the trigger with Revelark from it leaving play, so they can still go for Snap Mage, and they'll get their Soul Herder back as well. So the plan was here to go in for Drana and Lightning Greaves and then bring back the Massacre Worm, but I don't think that would have been enough to get them anyway. It might have been. Anyway, that gets countered. We will just throw out the Greaves, give them another card with the Study, and hopefully they will just turn in sideways at us because we are tapped out. Yeah, so I don't feel too bad about losing that one. We started off with a pretty bad hand and we didn't make incredible draws either, so yeah, I'm actually impressed that we have survived as long as we have, and we've had a few what might be outs here and there. Okay, our opponent's continuing to play cards for some reason. No need to play Jace whatsoever. But yeah, good game to our opponent. Like I said, we just didn't get into incredible draw there, and given a few more pieces of mana here and there, we might have been able to do something, but once you get into the late game against a deck like this, I don't think there's anything you're going to do. I think our only out really was going to be a board wipe with the Massacre Worm in play, but we would have needed 2 life, 4, 6, 8 and 10. We would have needed a couple more creatures to die in order for Massacre Worm to get them, so yeah, not sure we could have got them either way there. But anyway, I think it was a good showing for Drana, the Last Bloodchief. You'll have to let me know if you want to see more from her on the channel. Let me know in the comments section, and be sure to leave it a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.